The big story this evening, India has a new labour law regime in place. 29 colonial-era laws have now been repealed or rationalised into 4 new labour codes. The stated aim is to modernise the legal framework, extend social security to a wider workforce and ensure universal wage protection. However, trade unions affiliated with opposition parties have announced nationwide protests. So how do the new labour codes change the labour landscape? Let's focus on some of the big changes. First up, the central government will be fixing what it calls, and I quote, the floor wage, taking into account minimum living standards across geographies. States, however, will have the power to fix the minimum wage rate, which shall not be lesser than the floor wage fixed by the centre. So that becomes the floor. States can do more than that, but not lower than that if they like. Second, this has been a major bone of contention for trade unions. The law gives smaller companies more flexibility when it comes to laying off workers. Companies that employ more than 100 people needed government approval before laying people off. That threshold has now been increased to companies that employ over 300 people. Number 3, the gratuity eligibility timeline has been eased as well. Fixed-term employees who've completed a year of continuous service are eligible for gratuity. Earlier, the provision mandated 5 years of service. And lastly, the new code gives gig workers, people who work for the likes of Zomato, Swiggy, etc., legal recognition. This had been a long-standing industry demand. Platform companies could, however, see short-term financial impact on account of it. Let's now bring you a sector-by-sector analysis of the new codes. My colleagues are standing by, Reema, Shilpa and Sonal here with us to decode what the new labour codes mean for different sectors. Sonal, to you first. Real estate is a labour-intensive sector. How is the real estate sector reading into these developments? What is the likely impact?
That's right, there will be an impact on real estate industry and buyers as well because of changes that we are seeing in the labour laws. Now do remember, labour costs are different for different cities. For something like Mumbai, we have more percentage going to land costs in the total developmental cost versus a city like Hyderabad where labour costs will be higher. On an average, labour costs are anywhere between 15 to 30% of the total developmental cost for a real estate builder. And also if we talk about cost X of land, it is anywhere between 20 to 25% of the total construction costs. Now, what would the impact be of these changes? Now, we spoke to ANAROC. They indicated that labour costs would increase by 10 to 15% due to these new laws, and of the total developmental costs, it would mean an increase of 3 to 4%. Would the developers be able to absorb that? Not really, because their balance sheets are very stretched currently, and they will not take it on their P&L as well. And these costs will be passed on to the buyers, so there could be an impact of 3 to 4% on buyers' buying costs as well. We also spoke to Knight Frank, and they said that shortage of labour has been a serious issue in the real estate industry, and if these labour laws are implemented, there could be a massive shift. The labour shortage could not be an issue anymore, and it will be solved for this industry. However, he did indicate that yes, this implementation by builders could take more than a year, and to formalize this process as well completely. So this could be the impact of these new labour laws on the real estate industry, ultimately coming down to the buyer cost as well.
Well, that's right, Sonal. Let's bring in Shilpa now with what these rules mean for India's gig economy. Shilpa, what does it mean for platforms like Eternal, Swiggy, etc., and those who are employed by them?
Well, you know, these new labour codes, for the first time, they give all those who deliver our food, our online orders and drive our cabs a formal worker status. Now, a gig worker has been defined for the first time as anyone working outside a traditional employer-employee setup, and a platform worker is someone who provides a service via an online app. Now, formally coming under the Code of Social Security, gig and platform workers will get life, accidental and disability insurance, health cover and maternity benefits, old age protection or pension and a lot more. Now, they will also receive an Aadhaar-linked universal account number, which will allow them to access welfare benefits irrespective of which state they are in, removing the issue of migration as well. Now, a dedicated social security fund that will be financed by the governments, platform companies and CSR contributions will be supporting these schemes. Now, this brings in a big change for platforms with a mandatory contribution of 1 to 2% 1% of their annual turnover to the Social Security Fund, and it's capped at 5% of payouts that are made to these workers. Now, analysts estimate that this could increase costs for the like of Swiggy and Eternal by anywhere between 2 to 3 rupees per order, with an incremental burden of about 150 to 200 crores on their GMV. Now, Eternal and Swiggy already provide benefits worth around 1% of their revenue. Now, from Swiggy to Eternal to Uber, Amazon, others, all of them have welcomed these changes. Both Swiggy and Eternal say that they don't expect any material long-term financial impact and are strengthening their internal systems for compliance. Online shopping apps like Amazon and Flipkart are also evaluating changes required, and all these companies are engaging with the government as the final rules are drafted. Now, remember, what are all these companies? It covers all the major platforms: Swiggy, Eternal, Zepto, Amazon, Flipkart, Urban Company, Ola, Uber, Rapido, every other online ordering platform that you and I use. Now, analysts expect that these companies will pass on most or all of the cost to us consumers because they're already working with very stretched, thin margins. So this could mean a slight 2 to 3% increase per online order that we make, and this will likely be added to an existing platform or handling or convenience fee going forward. But this will go towards giving a much needed social security benefits to the 40 crore plus gig workers that we depend on almost every day. Back to you.
Well, it is a large number and the gig economy is growing. Thanks very much, Shilpa, for joining us. And let's go across to Rima now and what these codes could mean for the IT sector. Rima, you've been speaking with companies. What's the likely impact?
Thanks so much for that. So the overall impact on the IT industry is not expected to be material. Now, even though the IT industry is one of the largest employers of the formalized workforce, more than 5 million people are employed in the IT and IT-enabled services, which includes BPO, and a large chunk of the IT services expenses, some estimate 75%, some go as high as 85%, is on account of the wage bill. But the overall impact is not expected to be material. Where the costs could go up, perhaps, is on account of this mandatory health checkup for employees above 40. Because IT companies, some of these legacy old companies would have a sizable number of employees above the age of 40. But that other big change, where there is a mandatory PF-linked basic pay increase to 50%, is not going to impact the IT companies, because while it may reduce the in-hand amount for the employees, the overall cost to the company remains unchanged. So for a company, the CTC is not going to change. It's just the composition of the basic pay versus other allowances will change. So for an IT company, there is no impact on account of the basic pay increasing to 50%, unless they say that, okay, the company, the employees are going to get less money in their hand, and therefore we'll increase the overall CTC. And there could be a minor increase in the cost on account of the overall compliance burden, etc.
Okay, Rima, many thanks. So